Okay, so good morning, everyone. Good morning, honorable judges. My name is FAJRUL Falah. I'm the first speaker from the opposed team or the delegation of Junior High School 1 Purbalingga, and I'm start my speech in 3, 2, 1. I honored Al Fatih so much for for their impact to conquer the Constantinople. I made him my role model so that I one day could be such a great person like him. So proud to oppose. Firstly, after all of that long root assumption of the other side of the hand just got, we only got 4 points to rebut because it was the only clash that we can get. First, the lack of nationalism, they said, because the top down didn't have the experience that, and it will thus be the lack of nationality. But I think the other side of the table just didn't really know how the hero diction impact towards the society. Why? Because because historical books were made to give knowledge about history, people, past conflict, and if we just skip the top-down actors, it will just going to be losing sense of nationalism. Why? Because people who read just going to just read the textbook history are more likely people that are not experienced it, and that's why they learn about it. Me as the senior high school learn about how the reformation does, how about the Majapahit historical era does, and and who needs to be dignized about how was the main role involvement in this act, how was the Sukarno role about making Indonesia independence, and that is what I mean about how was the hero diction mean. And that's why in Indonesia we need to learn about historical hero such as Subarno, Sudirman, or even Sukarno itself. That of course have the privilege. Why? Because they are the one who also have the capability to create changes and save the day. And B, people that are highlighted in the historical textbook is the one who's involved and made changes. If we begin focusing too much on dozens of people that as the part of the history itself would be losing exclusivity towards its using. Even this nowadays in the status quo, there are so many campaign about just Merah. We could not forget about the history because there are so many people that are starting to losing its sympathy or empathy about the history because they're always telling the same about how the Indonesia went a few hundred years ago, and people are starting to get bored about history. So that's why there are so many campaign about it. And if their historical books change and tell more people that are we didn't even know who is this, we didn't even know who is the soldier, who is this, who dies in this war, and it will be more inefficient towards the day because even right now there are so many people that are already bored about the history, so we need to change this by not giving a more of not important, let me say, without losing respect, not importance because it already give so much knowledge by just implement the top down role. And see, we didn't acknowledge that there were so many people that are involved in and managed to be the part of the conflict solution, but we believe that they were another way to immortalize them, maybe by writing their names on the walls or even just like praying their names and every time we get upacara pagi. And the reason top down was focused to be learned in status quo is to make the historical textbook easier to learn by implement the hero act in the narrative so that me as the reader could easy to get what is the really the knowledge that we could get by reading the Sukarno story, about reading the Muhammad Hatta story, about Muhyamin story, because they are the hero act in this narrative. And second, the bottom up would get depth, nuance, analysis, and interconnected. But panels, what is the main needs and the reason to build that structure? People are already have the capability to implement nationalism by reading historical text that based focused on the top down and panels. Why we need to change again the historical just to get sympathy towards all of the people involved? It would just be so much inefficient to be implemented. And thirdly, immortalizing is the solution for bottom up people that involve and to be honored. But Thanos, notice that how could we not get double standard in the society that already see how much is the big impact that maybe Sukarno gives or maybe Sudirman gives, Muhammad Yamin gives, and by that they will give differentiation towards the bottom up people without losing its respect that only involve in several condition and conflict. The other side which is going to road and explain all of the people involved, dozen people involved, and you just going to write to yeah just write all of them in the historical books. There will be so much inefficient towards that. And for the past conflict impact, because there will be so much fanatic people and that's and people were just going to be separated into few groups and so that's why they need one simple perspective that they could implement for the unity and and I want to give one setup that already missed by proposed by the proposed team. Firstly, the implementation. How is the implementation of this narrative of focusing on the bottom up people? People nowadays were going to be separated again. People are going to have root assumption towards it because why do we need to change the historical books we already learned since we are kids and now we need to to get ourselves with the book itself because it was already so many difference between the historical books that are already read based on the top down people and the one who's the narrative who is trying to give by the proposed team by telling that it would need to focus on the bottom up people. The people nowadays would get more and more feeling that it was not inefficient to learn about historical conditions. And people still get the academical point. It is a root assumption if you said that we will get worse leader, we will losing academical points because why we will get that? We will already have so much role model in this nowadays, and it was part of the academical points itself by reading how was the independency work and how was all of the blood and tears that already gives by our hero and how we honored them that was already implemented in the historical books and so by that purpose just lost its objective to focusing in the historical books to fill with bottom up so please oppose.